Well, hi, folks, and welcome into another edition of This Week in Pearl, where today we're going to go under the dome with Representative Gene Newman and a very special guest that he is bringing in for you to meet today. His name is Gerard Gilbert, and he is the CEO of Venture Technologies. You may not know who that is, but I promise you after this conversation, you're going to. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Mayor Wyndham, and I'm thrilled to show you the city creating its own future. Pearl is located in Rankin County, the fastest growing county in Mississippi, and there's no question why. Access to great schools, even better shopping, and unbridled beauty make Pearl a town that truly embodies its name. And with a truly exceptional team of first responders, public safety is another key component of our success. With fantastic housing opportunities from quaint suburban neighborhoods to gorgeous lakefront properties, there's a place for you here in Pearl. You can't beat the location. Right outside of Pearl is the crossroads of the South, where Interstate 20 meets Interstate 55. From here you can travel anywhere within the state or the country. Or you can choose to stay right here in Pearl or experience the small town atmosphere, community pride, and heart of the local residents.
Hi, folks. Welcome back into another edition of This Week in Pearl, going under the dome, where I am excited to introduce to you my guest today, Mr. Gerard Gilbert, and our esteemed colleague who came in, Representative Gene Newman. Good morning.
Good to be here.
How are y'all today?
Doing good.
It's an early Monday morning for us, isn't it?
It is.
Yes, it is. Welcome to the show.
Appreciate
Thank
you
you for agreeing to come in.
Yeah.
For those of you who are, for those people in our audience who are not familiar with Mr. Gilbert, I'm going to introduce him just a little bit to you guys. Mr. Gilbert here started Venture Technologies back in late 90s, but it wasn't called that. It was actually, and I can't remember the exact first name, but Micro
86.
86, that's right. 86. And it's an interesting story, and I want you to tell, but
Sure.
But you were on the Governor's Council for AI here.
Yes, the AI Regulatory Task Force. I think there are 8 of us on it, and I was appointed to that.
And so I want to get into that, but to give our audience kind of a little background history of just who you are and why you're on that task force, would you mind telling folks just kind of that story of, because I know
Sure.
you went to school as an accountant.
That's right.
And now you're in technology, and how do you make that leap?
Yeah, and I'll give you the Reader's Digest version of that. 33-year history there. Did major in accounting with a minor in economics, and typically when you major in accounting, you aspire to join one of the big 8 at the time, big 4 now, public accounting firms. And I got a little taste of computers and systems in the one required class as part of the curriculum, and I liked it, and I did pretty well. And I said, I wonder if there are opportunities for accountants in this world. And turns out one of the big firms, Arthur Andersen, I worked for, they would hire people straight into their consulting division. Now that division spun out and became Accenture. And a lot of people know who that is. That's the world's largest digital consulting firm. I like to say I worked for them before they started shredding documents, just so you'll know the story there. I was gone when all that happened. But I spent about 5.5 years doing large-scale systems development and installation on mainframe computers. And it was during that period that the IBM personal computer was invented, 1981.
Right.
I thought that this thing was going to transform the world. And what was unique about the personal computer was that, and you being an OIT guy would understand this, it represented the first time a company. It wasn't for personal use. You didn't install them and use them at home. There wasn't anything to do with them back then.
Right.
But a company could buy a computer from a vendor, if you will, other than the manufacturer. So it created this, what we call the channel, which were computer resellers, is how they referred to us, that represented IBM and all these other platforms and peripherals and software and so forth to make these systems. And so I started looking around at how to do that. I had an entrepreneurial itch. I understood that technology, I understood business. This was the early days when most businesses were still manual, so they needed help. They needed someone to help them implement. stuff that's common and mainstream today, just simple accounting tasks, for example. Back then, that was fairly revolutionary.
Very much.
Automate, printing invoices, and checks.
I'm not handwriting stuff or typing anything on a typewriter.
And that's the way it was back then. So I saw that coming, had an interest in that. You could only receive and acquire an IBM authorization. You had to be an IBM dealer to make it in those days. If you were associated with a franchise. And so I found MicroAge, who did not have a franchise in the Jackson area, and I borrowed $300 from my dad to fly. I didn't have $300 to fly to Phoenix, their headquarters, to pitch them on opening up a franchise in Mississippi. And they liked it. I spent the next year and a half or so trying to raise $189,000 of startup capital. I realized that banks don't loan money without collateral. I didn't have that. Was able to finally secure a loan out of the generosity.
Y'all were like 24, 25?
Yeah, I was 26.
26, right.
Yeah. And of course, when you're 26, as you can imagine, you think you're infallible,
Sure.
and you know everything, right?
We did.
26, right? So I walk into all these banks, local banks, thinking this will be a cinch. I'm just going to give them my business plan. They're going to write me a check. Well, I was wrong. They basically told me. One banker said, I think people have all the computers they'll ever need. That was 1985. That's a true story.
Wow.
And that's fine. They just couldn't see. And I would get frustrated, like, don't you see where all this is going? And they couldn't. But after that, I was about ready to hang it up. My parents, my in-laws, my wife's parents, my in-laws on the coast, they offered without solicitation their life savings, which was some land north of Biloxi. My mother-in-law was the chief accountant at Keesler, and my father-in-law sold cars at D Chevrolet. They were not wealthy people.
Right.
And back in those days, it was common to invest in land, real estate, for retirement. We didn't have 401k plans and stuff like that.
Not then, no.
You'd buy a piece of land, you could get a loan for that, you just pay on that, and when you retired, it's paid for, and that was your retirement, essentially. And so they literally deeded their retirement to me at 27.
No pressure. To
start this company. And I went back to the bank, put that deed on the table and said, well, that'd do. And their eyes got pretty big. And so I got that loan. 7-year loan that we paid off in 5. And of course, we were operating, under the fear of we fail, I got to go to my in-laws and say, I just lost your life savings.
Yeah, right.
So we had many trials and tribulations and periods where we thought this is it, this is not going to work, and then something would happen and we get new energy. My wife always said, I think you got a guardian angel that's looking out for you, and I think she was probably right. So just fast forward through that. That was $189,000 startup loan. Fast forward through that, the networking, the internet build out, about all that stuff, Y2K, and we came out of that thinking, this has been kind of easy these last couple of years. People were spending so much money, companies, to rectify this Y2K problem, which, by the way, I'm here to tell you, was a real problem. I personally wrote thousands of lines of code where there was a 2-digit year. All the people that think that's a hoax don't know what they're talking about. It was absolutely a real thing. Why was it uneventful? I like to think because our industry is just really good. We're very deadline driven, and I'm talking to somebody who's in the industry.
I lived through it.
We stay up all night.
We do
all the time. We're used
I like to laugh and joke because people talk about that around here. Not to cut you off because I don't want you to stop. But when people say, "Well, why were you up all night?" My hashtag IT life.
Exactly right.
I mean, that's just where we
are. We accept that.
Yeah, we accept that. It's part of the role.
Yeah, and I think that's why we were able to avert. So I spent almost 30 months. I'm not sure I ever shared this with you before, Representative Newman, but between 1998 and 2001, I traveled from here, the airport around the corner here, to beautiful downtown Trenton, New Jersey, to fix the Y2K problem in the New Jersey Department of Corrections.
No kidding.
And that was every week.
How did you get that phone call?
Every week for 30 months.
Wow. Every week for 30 months. How did you get that phone call? Somebody just knew you?
It's interesting. We got brought in by, this was a huge comprehensive system that included something we don't talk about a lot today, a document imaging component, right? It used to be very sophisticated, complex technology.
It was.
Today, we just take a picture with our phone and put it in a
right?
scanner. But in those days, document imaging was a big deal.
People have no idea.
They had no idea.
Especially these young kids. They have
Exactly.
No
So
idea.
we were a FileNet partner. I don't know if you remember a company called FileNet.
Yeah.
And they were working on this project, which, by the way, had been through 4 RFPs, and the state rejected because of the price.
4?
And it was E&Y and Systems House and Accenture, and all those guys were involved in it, and they rejected it. And so FileNet was really wanting to get this deal done, and so was Oracle. And we were an Oracle partner. And they called us and said, would you guys be interested in getting involved in this project? And we did, and it's a long story that I can't share today, but my father was terminally ill at the time, and I had a rep that agreed to stand us up as the prime contractor on this $45 million project. So we were the prime contractor.
Wow.
I had 7 subcontractors.
You were in charge.
In charge.
Yeah.
And that means I had all the risk.
You had all the risk.
And so that's how we got involved. And I literally traveled. I worked 7 days a week.
30 weeks.
No,
30 months.
30 months weekly. And when I was on the airplane, I was working on. That's before we had Wi-Fi, so I was working offline, and then I'd plug in and replicate. The Gartner Group, you guys, you know who that is, but they're a big digital consulting firm out of New York. The state brought them in to sort of handicap the prospect of finishing this project in time for Y2K. And this was, by the way, this was August of 1998. They paid them $150,000 for a 1-month study. And they told the state, you need 66 months to do this. And they threw the report at me and said, what are you going to do, Gerard? I said, well, what do you want me to do? I'm just going to keep working.
I'm going to finish.
And we're going to get this thing done. So I'm proud to say we went live. I know this is old history. Nobody thinks about this
people,
today, but
our audience certainly wouldn't know this.
we went live November of 1999, just in time. And we and this was an extremely complicated system. It's hard to believe what it takes to run a correctional institution.
Oh, I know.
But the main software component had 500 screens in it. And then it interface. They're unionized. They're custody officers. There was a scheduling and payment compensation payroll that was brutally complicated.
Sure.
But we got all that done, and so fast forward through that. After that, the wind was out of our sails, because everybody was saying we're going to take a rest. We're not going to spend any money for a while. This Y2K, we spent our budget. Our people are exhausted. And we looked around and said, what are we going to do? We need something. We need something new to keep us going. And my chief technology officer said, we ought to think about opening up a data center. Of course, I said, what are we going to do with that? And so he persuaded me to do that. And we literally launched the first commercial data center in the state of Mississippi, one of the first in the country. And that was in 2001.
I remember that.
Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And the keynote address at our opening ceremony there, Representative Newman, was none other than Auditor Phil Bryant.
Really?
I remember.
I have pictures of it.
I remember that day.
And it was in the Jackson State University East Center, just down 20 a few miles here. And that was a deal that was actually, for us to be in Jackson State, brokered by my corporate lawyer at the time, Delbert Hoseman, who represented the Jackson State University Foundation. He called me up one day. He said, I'm working with the foundation on getting this Allstate building, and they want to turn it into a high-tech center, and they want to anchor it with a data center. I don't know what that is, but I understand you got one. Well, you can appreciate
a building one.
Right. And he said, I said, well, how much square footage they want me to take? And he said, about 13,000, the space they had kind of indicated for it. And I'm doing the math in my head what that would cost. I mean, I'm a little, small business. I said, man, I don't know, Delbert. That's a lot of money to build out. Now we got millions of square feet today, but 13,000, we're talking tens and tens of millions of dollars.
Easy,
right?
Easy.
People just don't understand how expensive that is. And he said, well, don't make a decision today, Gerard. I said, okay. And I thought about it. And Jackson State was a huge customer of mine. I had been from the beginning of my company. Just had a great relationship. By the way, they're very progressive, Jackson State, with their use of technology.
They are.
And I said, I tell you what, if we can get the university to subscribe to a component of services from the facility to cover my rent, I'll do it. And they did, and the rest is history. So we were delivering cloud services before the term was invented in that facility. One of the first 10 partners of Microsoft in the world that they allowed to provision any software in their catalog on demand, and we paid them license fees based on usage. We had to send a usage report to their format and a check for the privilege of using that software. So fast forward from there, I kind of got this feeling that we had sort of hit a plateau in Mississippi and wanted to expand the company, and so I went to Wall Street in 2008. And pitched the idea of funding to investors, strategic acquisitions. And I got told once again, your company's worth nothing, by the way. And that was a hard pill to swallow. But I met somebody that liked the story, liked the company, liked the idea, showed up unannounced for a big event we used to have at the country club. Talked to my people without me knowing it. Talked to my technology partners. I mean, there's a bunch of people in this room. He came and found me. And I said, what are you doing
doing their due diligence.
Yeah.
Right.
And he said, I just want you to know I like your story. I've done a lot of research, and I think we could get something done here. Here's what I need you to do. And he said, by the way, your people love this company. Your vendors love this company. Your customers love this company. And that's what you want an investor to hear, right? So we went back to the market about 4 years later once we got our revenue balanced around subscription revenue and premise project type one-time revenue. He liked that, went back, raised money, bought companies with that capital. Unfortunately for me, we did too well. I did have to issue board seats for some of those companies, and on a 4-3 vote, the decision was made to sell the company, and that was in 2017. And at that point, I was charged as the CEO of the company for pitching the sale of an asset I didn't want to sell.
Sure.
We were the 30th largest private company in Mississippi when we sold it, something I'm really proud of. By the way, it's public record, so I'm not saying anything here that is not in the public domain because we sold to a public company. Yeah. But we took that $189,000 startup loan and we sold the company for $92 million cash. So we did pretty good.
I'd say you had a pretty good return on investment.
Pretty good.
Mom-in-law and father-in-law didn't do too bad for their retirement.
Yeah, so we of course, it was a happy day when I deeded that property back to them, and I thanked them many times before they passed away for that. It wouldn't have been possible without that. Right. But I'm very blessed in that, and I know it's a long story.
No, but everybody wanted to hear that, and
that's what
and it's a great story, and I knew some of that.
Yeah.
Because it's and I say this a lot. God puts you where He wants you, and He gives you what you need when you need it. You just have to be patient.
That's right.
And wait on it.
That's right. My wife says, put a bow on it. Job well done. Move forward.
Yeah, move forward.
And that's what I try to do. I knew that was a risk based on the structure we used to acquire companies. I knew this is a risk, and it was a 4-3 vote. There's no doubt, and I've talked to my investors about this, there's no doubt had we continued, we'd be well over $1 billion company.
Oh,
today.
Easy.
So
sure.
That was my goal, was to build $1 billion company in Mississippi, but fell short of that, but still proud of what we and
so
really
you accomplished an awful lot.
You accomplished an awful lot
in
for the county. Hey, but you did go to the right school. Now Gene played that Gene over here, but he did go to the right school. He is an Ole Miss grad, by the way.
Getting that done in Mississippi is something I'm super proud of. Sure. And I love going to Wall Street and pitching a Mississippi technology company. And I got to tell you, I'd always ask them, even though I knew it was a rhetorical question. And what I mean by this, these settings are very sophisticated, discerning investors at these big private equity firms. And you're at the front of the conference table, and they're firing questions at you, of course. And you better be able to think on your feet, and you better have all that information memorized. Right. Because if they see one little chink in the armor, you're done, right?
And the perception is you're from Mississippi.
Well, and so I would always ask, does anybody here have a problem investing in a Mississippi-based technology company? Now, I always knew the answer was going to be no. But I just wanted to get that on the table. And what I learned in that process, they really don't care. It's one color they see. It's green.
Right.
And if They want to look at you in the eye and know that you're going to take care of their asset and you're going to provide them a return on that asset, and that's all they care about.
Right. And it doesn't matter where it is.
Doesn't matter where it is.
Yeah.
And that was my experience. And so I've been blessed in that I've been in the conference rooms of the most sophisticated, most prominent private equity firms on the planet. All great people, by the way. Sure. And interestingly enough, they're all within a couple of blocks of the Wall Street financial district. Pardon me. They think like we do. These are people you would often associate with their kind of left-leaning New Yorkers. These people are not at all. They're capitalists. They think like we do. They're conservative with their political leanings. I've had dinner and socialized with many of them. Great people. Couldn't be more grateful for what they did for us, no doubt. And our people all did well when we sold our company. So,
which is good.
Yeah.
Which is good. But it's great for Mississippi. So here we are today, Mississippi. I would venture to say that most people would be surprised how much technology actually comes out of Mississippi. I remember back in the day holding a device that looked like this. It was a pager.
Yeah.
It was a flip pager. It came out of Mississippi.
That's right.
That's another story.
One of my customers, by the way.
One of your customers. Well, that's a story for another day, but I remember it well because I was there. But but
invented here, essentially.
Invented here. But people would really be shocked the amount of technology that's come out of this state. I really do believe that.
I agree.
They would not. They were like, really? That was invented? Yeah, it was. So we do a lot of good things. It's kind of behind the scenes. So let's jump to where we are today.
Sure.
You get appointed.
That's the history.
That's the history. So now everybody knows that the man's very qualified for what we're talking about today. So there's a change in our society. What I say, and most people say, it's kind of the third wave of AI. This will be like the third, and things are moving very rapidly. So Amazon was announced coming to Mississippi. Kind of give us, because you were very much involved in that. You sit on the council for that. So kind of give us the idea, how did we get Amazon to the state of Mississippi for their data center and their new AI stuff?
Yeah, so Amazon Web Services did announce a little over a year ago a $10 billion investment in Madison County.
Which is huge.
Yeah. Now, if you know how Amazon operates, and I have studied this, they typically sandbag those announcements. So even though it's $10 billion officially, I honestly believe, based on the run rate of the investment in the buildings that are under construction right now, that investment will be considerably higher.
Okay.
Which is good news. But that's typical of the way Amazon operates. The sandbagging of the announcement there's a strategy in that, and I'm not going to question that. They know what they're doing. I do serve on the Madison County Economic Development Authority. I'm currently the board chairman, and that's my second cycle of serving in that role. I've been on the board since 2018, and we started talking about this mega site that the Madison County supervisors and Makita, the board I serve on, decided to make an investment in some land, to have land ready to go, shovel ready, if you will. And of course, the governor has seen the wisdom of that as well, and the legislature in appropriating money to do some sites and get them ready across the state, because speed to market is critical. And when Amazon came in and they saw how quick we could get ready and get them to the point where they could construct these buildings and start selling their services. That's what they're all about. Also, we're blessed in Mississippi in that our regulatory environment is business friendly. We were able to streamline them through the permitting process, or at least prove to them that we could. And they got comfortable with that, mainly from the fulfillment center that they built at the mega site in Madison County. So they already had some experience there. And of course, they're looking across the country, across the world, really, to construct these Amazon Web Services facilities, as you said, with this explosion of artificial intelligence. That requires data centers and lots of IT infrastructure and lots of electrical power.
Lots of power.
Yeah. So, of course, Entergy was part of that conversation early on. And Amazon and Entergy had to work together to ensure that each were comfortable with the requirements, and that Entergy could satisfy the demand in a way that was economically viable. So once that process completed, Amazon made the decision they were coming, and honestly, it was in process going back to 2019.
I was thinking to say, this was going back to 2019.
The board was aware,
Yeah.
and our executive director, but this really goes back to 2019. And I'm proud of our board for abiding by the non-disclosure agreement and not leaking that out to the public. That literally could have produced a different outcome for us. Amazon didn't want anybody to know. That's their business strategy. I don't question them on that whatsoever. So there are two sites. There one in Canton, just south of Canton in Madison County. The other is in Ridgeland, along the county line border there with Hinds County. That property, our group, Makita, had to go purchase. So we had to negotiate a deal with the owners of that property to do that. It's about 850 acres at each site. The first phase of this project will include 16 buildings, 12 at the north site, 4 at the south site, each building 250,000 square feet. So you can do the math there. That's about 4 million square feet of data center. Now think about what I said earlier, my little 13,000. Now we were serving 55,000 end users when we sold the company out of our 13,000 square foot data center. So you can, you're talking
55,000 end users.
Yes, end users. So this is hundreds of millions, billions of end users. So if you think about what data centers do, it's different than a typical manufacturing concern or a distribution concern. They're trucks coming in and out. The trucks bringing raw material in on one side, trucks bringing out finished goods on the other side, right? But this is different. The product they're producing is being distributed on wires, on cables, fiber in this case. So the combination of an abundance of fiber that exists here at the crossroads of 55 and 20, and by the way, that started 25 years ago.
A long time ago.
In fact, the Jackson State East Center, which is that I was talking about earlier, the reason it was so perfectly suited for our data center, it sits atop the fiber ring that a lot of people don't know about that encircles
downtown Jackson. Right.
And it's there at that location because when Allstate built it in 1978, they knew it was going to be on top of that fiber ring. Why was that important to them? It was a call center. They had 1,200 employees in their prime that were answering the telephone back when that's the way you did customer service. And that place was full of call center agents. And they wanted to have low risk of losing connectivity, and so they plugged it in on top of the fiber. And so the last mile for our data center was up the elevator shaft. That's the last mile.
That was literally the last mile.
Yeah, and carriers co-located their equipment on our floor.
On your floor.
On our floor because of that location. So now Delbert didn't know that when he called me, but in some research we said, that's actually a pretty good location. But so the abundance of fiber, the ability of energy to meet Amazon's power requirements, the site being ready, and when the Amazon people came out there, and by the way, Makita, we went and bought one of these high-end four-wheeler, air-conditioned four-wheelers to go out
and drive people around?
Take prospects around.
Right.
And we spent a lot of money cleaning and grubbing that site so that you could kind of envision, if I have a project, what would it look like here instead of just looking at raw, untouched land. And I liken it to if you're selling real estate. Realtors will tell you, you want to make your house look like somebody move in it today, right? Don't leave anything untouched. This is the same sort of concept. But they really liked what they saw. They liked the site. They liked working with Entergy. They liked working with our board. And all that just sort of culminated into a decision in our favor. I believe this is phase one, by the way. I think we'll see multiple phases that will be larger than this first project. This is just Gerard's opinion I'm offering here. I think they will end up investing $75 billion in Madison County.
Wow. That's your estimate. $75 billion.
That's Gerard's estimate.
But that's
this is not official from Makita. And Amazon hasn't said anything. And I'm just
we're talking brick and mortar buildings.
That's right.
You see
nondescript
windowless brick and mortar buildings that inside there is very cold. And there's a lot of blinky lights.
That's right.
And that's about it.
That's right. And there was a time when I always thought, how are we going to get data centers here because of us being in hurricane or tornado alley?
Right.
But technology has improved to the point where you can build a building that can withstand a 275 mile an hour
absolutely.
Wind loading.
You
So
bet.
that's changed.
All that's changed.
So it used to be that the data center operators would try to find a space where they're not at risk of that. There's a bubble around Southwest Texas, which is home to a lot of data centers, and then up in Virginia as well, sort of inland in Virginia, and that's why they're there.
Right.
Is because of the weather, but that's changed. So no earthquakes in Southwest Texas, no tornadoes and hurricanes, same sort of deal.
Or buried in the mountains out in Colorado.
Nevada.
Or
that's
Nevada,
right. In Nevada. We had a big customer, Switch Networks, was in Reno, had a massive, 4 million square foot data center facilities up in the mountains in Nevada. And that was why. It was just very low
safe.
risk area. So
Very safe.
all of that's kind of been taken off the table now, which is good news, I think, for Mississippi.
Now, how does this equate to our citizens and being able to make a living with Amazon coming in? How does the job market work around that? Now I have some idea, but will you explain to our audience?
Well,
obviously the construction that's going on, that employs Mississippians to do that, but that's got to end at some point.
Eventually.
Yes.
When that'll be, I don't know.
Who knows?
If they
Because they're going to
on
continue
phase
to
2
grow.
and 3, I think there may be 5 to 7 years of construction at the pace it is today.
That's
And
Which is like ants.
There's 3,000 to 4,000 out there. In fact, I'm told that they have to park off site and be bussed in.
That's correct. That is correct.
I remember building Nissan when I worked for Nextel.
Yeah, exactly. And
we were on site there all the time. And
that's right.
And
they still are.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a major maintenance issue, and it never ends. And that will be the case here. There's always a need for HVAC people, electricians, more of the physical infrastructures we refer to it in the data center world. That's right.
You'll need a lot of trades.
And they told us when they launched this project, there probably aren't enough electricians in the state of Mississippi to handle the electrician needs to build this thing.
So we need electricians.
There are a bunch of them from out of state, and several have actually said, "I'm going to stay here." And during the construction period, every hotel is full, every restaurant's full, and so they're spending money, in the economy. And the movement of dirt. So no secret, there are parts of Mississippi that have dirt that's not really suited.
You probably wouldn't be talking about Yazoo clay, would you?
I would be. And so they're I can't remember the figure. I want to say like 750 million cubic yards of dirt's being moved out, and then replacement dirt moved in. And so there's a parade. You go out there today. There's a parade of dump trucks. Everybody's got a dump truck in Mississippi. It's moving dirt around.
Moving dirt right
Alabama
now.
and Texas, and everybody else got trucks over there.
So, I want to point this out as well before I get into your question, what does this mean? Because I think this is important. I've done remotes before and interviewed people that are benefiting, Mississippi companies that are benefiting from this project. And I've had people privately tell me that are benefiting from this project. They're making more money than they ever have in their history. And so I think that gets overlooked. What's involved when you start talking about building out 4 million square feet of data center? Everything involved from site prep to just all the tools that are needed, just even during the concrete phase. I had no idea how complicated concrete construction is until the people in that business start telling me about it. People in the porta potty business, and they're saying, we're making more money than we ever have.
Sure.
I get more satisfaction out of knowing that, great, this is what we wanted. Mississippi companies are benefiting from this investment. It's more than just how many people are going to work in those buildings when it's all said and done. We're talking about life-changing sales and profit that is being received by these great Mississippi
generational changes.
Yes. That's why
that's really what it is.
That's what it's all about.
And people think, well, it's just affecting Madison County. No, it's not.
No, it's not.
It's all over the place.
It's everywhere. I mean, you got companies in Smith County and Copiah County, let alone Rankin County, that are benefiting from all this. So
totally true.
It's generational.
Totally true.
So before we get off electricians, so one of the complaints that I've heard is that everybody's electricity rates are going to go up because they're getting a deal on their electricity. Now, I know that Energy is putting a new power plant in at Greenwood.
Greenwood or
Greenville?
Madison, they've reignited a plant in, I think it's LaFleur County, if I'm not. No, it may be Greenville. That's Washington County.
Yeah. Well, I can't
remember. But it's in the Delta.
One of those two
that was shut down, and I think it's been restarted. That's part of their increase in electrical output, but they're spending about $2.5 billion on new electrical generation and transmission in the area to meet Amazon's needs. Now, Energy currently produces about 3 gigawatts of power in their Mississippi footprint. Okay, so they don't have the entire state of Mississippi. There are 3 utility companies that service Mississippi with electrical power. They mainly have the western half of the state, 3 gigawatts. Amazon is going to consume 1.6 gigawatts. So this one project will consume more than half of Entergy's current service in Mississippi. Haley Fisackerly, the CEO of Energy, has been on my program talking about this a couple of times. And then we recently had a quarterly economic development outlook event in Madison that we always host on a quarterly basis. He was our keynote speaker. He talked extensively about this. So Amazon is going to generate about $1 billion of revenue to Entergy. They're a $2 billion company today in Mississippi. So Entergy Mississippi's revenue will increase by 50% just with this one customer, which is mind-boggling. Now, to your question, I've received those questions as well from the public. We all have, of course, and you guys being involved in the deal in special session, they got everything laid out for Amazon. It is true that Energy and Amazon have cut a separate deal for their electrical rates. That's absolutely true. And it, to some extent, is outside of the purview of the Public Service Commission. So there are naturally concerns that there are going to be costs that Entergy will bear to provide electric service to Amazon that will be passed on to the consumers because they have this contractual rate. I can only pass on what the CEO of Energy had, and I would be remiss if I questioned it any other way. I think we have to take Haley at his word. He's a reputable, trustworthy person that's been in this role for a while. But the way he explained it to me is that the cost of electricity is constantly rising because of inflation, if nothing else. And then you've got the volatile inputs, mainly natural gas, which is all over the place, right? So that, and you know, the regulations with the Public Service Commission allows them to adjust rates based on that. So what he explained to me is that we're having to modernize our infrastructure now just to keep up with current demand. And when we do that, that's at a higher cost to replace what they currently have, but what they currently have is about to stop working, right? So you're either going to, like the IT world, you can either invest now and we can upgrade, or one day this thing's going to stop working, and then we're all going to be up a creek. So he explained that because Amazon is coming, they're able to invest in this new power, but also modernize their infrastructure, and that what they do, the way he explained it, is that will actually bend the curve downward. So we're still going to have what appears to me to be a continuous increase in the cost of electricity, but at a lower pace. I mean, my electric bill today without Amazon, certainly more than it was for the same usage 2 years ago. I think everybody's experiencing that, right? So what he's explained is because they're making this massive investment, we're benefiting from the economies of scale. That made more sense to me than anything. And I believe that to be the case. If it's not, and we won't know, I guess, until they're online and they're drawing power, I dare say that folks will speak up, and the legislature, the governor, the PSC, Energy, Amazon will have to go sit around the table and figure something out.
Well, one thing that our representative here likes to mention a lot is that we meet every year.
Yes,
so we can fix this.
Well, the thing about the other thing that you need to consider, everybody needs to consider when they're talking about the rates keep going up, is you think about all the hundreds, and when I say hundreds, I mean literally hundreds of houses that's going up in Pearl.
Oh, you're right.
And then hundreds in Rankin County, and then all the houses going up in Madison County. So you got all these houses that are being added that are pushing the limits of energy and Southern Pine and everybody else. So, rates just to accommodate all that growth have to go up some. There's no, and then let alone the natural gas price keeps fluctuating.
Well,
so.
there's also a federal component to this.
Yeah.
That's right.
Obviously.
There is.
And not to get off in the energy world, but it is one of Donald Trump's big items on his agenda is data centers and AI and energy. And I know that Lee Zeldin has cut tons of regulations on new power plants. I mean, they're even letting these data centers like Amazon build their own power plants.
That's right. And I think that's the future, honestly.
That's would have been unheard of 10 years ago.
That's
even
exactly
maybe
right.
5 years ago.
Well, the small modular reactors,
right?
the
These
SMRs,
small modular reactors, and nuclear's back in favor, which it should have never gone away in the first place.
Agree.
Because it's the cleanest form of power we can produce.
And it's unlimited, essentially.
Thank you. And it doesn't kill birds like windmills. And I don't have to worry about the clouds for solar panels and rain. So it makes a lot more sense.
Right.
I mean, they put it in Voyager 1 spacecraft, for crying out loud. It's 50-something years old. That's been out in interstellar space for, I don't know, the last 4 or 5 years.
Every aircraft carrier we've got operating
I know,
is
right?
on nuclear power.
So these, I don't want to get off on this tangent of craziness that these people have tried to sell the world, but nuclear power is the right way to do
no
this.
doubt about it.
There's no doubt. And these small reactors so I know that energy probably has some plans to bring those things online. They have to.
Yeah.
And of course, I do believe that the way the economy is going right now, that curve will flatten because you can see energy rates coming down. And I do think that's going to, I don't have a crystal ball.
Yeah.
Nobody has a crystal ball.
Well, I think what a lot of people point to are situations in Virginia and to some extent in Texas and a couple other areas where they have Georgia, where they've seen a spike because of the data center investment. I maintain that was poor planning. And I think we've learned a lot
I
since
agree.
then.
You've learned from that.
Yeah. And so energy's stepping up and saying, we're going to spend $2.5 billion, which is another major investment in economic development to satisfy AWS's energy
But Mississippi
requirements.
banks are stepping up and helping out.
That's true as well.
There's a lot going on behind the scenes that people don't even realize.
I think that's totally right. And the other thing that Haley explained is, they have this sort of consortium and kind of power sharing agreement with other utility companies. And something's occurred recently, I believe he stated, that has freed up some of the capacity at Grand Gulf, which will be part of this as well.
Which will be part of that as well.
Westinghouse, I talked about this on my show a couple of weeks ago. Now, that's a name you don't hear a lot about. No. They are in the nuclear plant construction business. And they announced a couple of weeks ago, after, to your point, the president said, we're all about needing more power. They're going to construct 7 new nuclear plants in this country. When's the last time you saw an announcement on that?
30 years ago?
Yeah,
40 years ago, maybe?
Well, I think the left in this country has been so anti-nuclear power. And there are other people as well, on our side of the aisle. But in general, I think we've seen this is really clean and safe. Yeah, we had a 3 Mile Island mishap, and what happened in the Soviet Union was a problem. We've learned a lot.
Japan had a tsunami.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, things happen.
Microsoft is building a new hyperscale facility near 3 Mile Island. They're going to restart the reactor that did melt down, and they're going to your point, they're going to be totally self-sufficient with power from a power perspective
there
with that plant.
Right.
So that was announced about 3 months ago.
Why not rehab it and
it's coming? There's no doubt about it. And the good news is, Representative Newman, from our regulatory perspective, our PSC, I've interviewed them all. They're for this, so they're not standing in the way of this whatsoever. They welcome this. So.
Just last week we were having a discussion about 2008, pivotal for you and your company, but also just in general for the state of Mississippi. And I kind of pointed back, and Dean Kirby was here, but we've talked about this a lot. 2008 in the state of Mississippi seems to be a point in time where things really started to change for this state. Now, I don't think I'm wrong because everything started coming together. But what happened? Conservatives took over the state government. That was the biggest thing in 2008 was conservative leadership, not only in governor, but in legislature. And it just started taking over. And now look where we are today. So this just didn't happen overnight. And as you said, in
agree.
2019, when this was actually starting,
Yep.
we were coming off the end of a Trump presidency going into an election in 2020. So stuff was kind of up in the air.
That's right.
So there
That's
was,
right.
you know, there was a lot of things moving. Okay, so we've talked about
Yeah.
the brick and mortar part
Yeah.
of it. Let's talk about the future part of it.
Yeah.
Mississippi has been and to some degree will remain somewhat of an agricultural state. It has to. We feed a lot of people. We grow a lot of things in the Delta, and that's kind of where that is. But how do you see the state educating our young people to start taking advantage of what's coming to our state? How do we do that? What's the
Yeah.
roadmap you tell this man right here? These are the laws you need to enact. These are the things you need. What does that look like? Share with us your vision on that.
Yeah, so let's talk about the AWS project first, because this
Mhm.
question comes up a lot. Well, these are data centers. They don't employ a lot of
No,
people.
they don't.
So Amazon is required with the various concessions they received to hire at least 1,000 people. Have them in place, by the way, in 2027
Mm-hmm.
with an average pay of $66K.
Mm-hmm.
I personally believe it'll be more like 1,200 with an average pay approaching 100K.
Mm-hmm.
Just to staff the facilities, the buildings themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But what I really see happening is tremendous outgrowth from this. And this is what I mean by that. You've been in the industry, as I have, where we're sort of relics in the IT world.
Well, yeah, that's not true.
But
yes.
But here's what I have observed in my decades in the industry. We geeks like to concentrate and be around other geeks.
We do.
You agree with that?
100%.
Right?
Yep.
So here's what's going to happen, in my opinion. You're going to see a lot of technology type entities sprout up around this facility, not because they have a direct relationship with Amazon Web Services, just because they like to be around it. I really do believe that's going to happen.
Okay.
And I know
I
of
see.
two
Yeah,
developers
sure.
right now
Sure.
that already have land and plans to erect office type buildings that are designed to sort of house those kinds of companies.
Just to be around the
They
energy
just like to be around it.
of the things that are going on.
And I'll give you this
Yeah.
example, and
Right.
you'll know what I'm talking about, and I'll explain what I'm talking about. Most people never heard of Research Triangle Park, RTP,
Mhm.
in the Charlotte, Raleigh
Right.
area, North Carolina.
Yep.
When Cisco and IBM decided to create secondary sorts of headquarters
Mhm.
in those in that area,
Mhm.
it's unbelievable how that area exploded and became like a Silicon Valley for the East.
Yeah, on the East Coast.
On the
Right.
East Coast.
Mhm.
And I think last I checked, Cisco has like 6,000 employees there. Now, Cisco was my big partner.
Yeah.
We're talking about 6,000 employees that are all making $250,000 a year. That's
Right, right.
game changing
That's,
for an economy.
again,
Right.
generational.
Yeah,
Right.
that's game changing.
Sure.
And that's not being disrespectful
Mhm.
or suggesting that there's no value
Mhm.
in a distribution or a manufacturing facility where there are people making 50, 60, 70,000. That's fantastic. That's gainful employment.
Mhm.
But really moving the needle is when you've got office buildings full of $250,000 a year people that buy houses and cars and all the other stuff, pay taxes.
Mhm. And spend money.
You want
on
better roads, you want better schools,
Right.
you want better health care.
Spend money in the
That's where that
economy.
comes from.
That's
Here.
right.
Spend
That's
money
just,
here.
that's just
right.
a fact.
But they also
So-
need plumbers, electricians,
Exactly
welders.
right.
They need all
That's
of that.
exactly right. They're going to spend their money. So I
Mhm.
do believe that's going to happen. I think we're going to see outgrowth. Now, as far as the next generations, there's no doubt we need to do something
Mhm.
to keep these fabulous graduates. You
Yes.
and I, we've all met them. And they're across the border before the ink's dry on their diplomas
That's
in many
it.
Yeah,
cases.
yes.
Because there's no place for them to work here.
Mhm.
I think this is going to change that. And there was a time when you'd say, okay, go learn how to code. Don't go learn how to code because AI is going to do all the coding for you. Coders are having a hard time finding work.
I think you say that's right.
That's gone.
that's
gone.
Right.
And so this whole evolution of artificial intelligence and the economy that's driving, that my eyes were open just going out to that conference last week, the AI4 conference in Las Vegas, and seeing these 400 exhibitors that all had different solutions. There's a lot of overlap, and they might not all make it. But you know what? A whole new set will sprout up between now and next year. Because a lot of people say, well, yeah, they're all doing the same thing. They're not all going to make it right. But somebody's going to invent something else, and they're going to be showing here next year that you and I have never even thought about. And that's the creative side of the economy, and that's what AI cannot do. It can't create. It cannot replace human creativity, because everything it generates today, somebody already created. It's just combining all that.
Right, or it came from a prompt.
That's
from a
exactly
human.
right. So it's the creative capabilities of humans. I had a philosophy. It was a business ethics course I took at Ole Miss. And this is in the philosophy.
I think I took that class.
This was in the Department of Philosophy.
Yes.
I remember the professor saying something that stuck with me. He said, the difference between monkeys and humans, he said, monkeys are aware, humans are aware that they're aware.
Right.
And that made so much sense to me.
That makes a lot of sense.
And that's like, I never thought about it. Of course, I'm 19. I hadn't thought about a lot at that point. And the point is,
right.
And Jensen Huang, the founder, CEO of NVIDIA, they're guys that make the chips that are optimized for AI processing. He said AI is not going to take your job. Somebody using AI is going to take your job.
That's right.
So I think it's important that we introduce children at a young age to AI. Now, that's got to be done with guardrails. I get that.
Certainly.
So you said that.
Yeah.
Our superintendent of schools, Chris Chisholm.
Yeah.
You've met Chris.
Very good with AI.
They're implementing that in the Pearl school system, and he's been I guess you'd call him a preacher of
he's
AI.
A champion.
He's been a champion. He's been a trailblazer.
Anybody that wants him, he'll do anything he can to help them. But I think it's amazing what he's doing with our children here in Pearl in our school system.
Completely agree. And Pearl's blessed to have him in that respect. I understand there's concerns about, homework's being done with AI and they're using an AI to do assignments and tests and stuff like that. I get it. I'd have to think about whether or not that's a bad thing. Are you not learning how to critically think when you're using AI to produce some of these things? Because you know what, in the workforce, that's the way it's going to work.
I've been using it for several years here. I use it every day. I use AI all the time. I've self-taught on how to do prompts, and because it's still kind of new. But is it a bad thing? Because as you said, they are critically like if I put garbage in, I'm going to get garbage
That's
out.
Right.
So I have to critically think: what am I asking of it, and what do I want it to return to me? It's not something I can't go figure out on my own. It just gives it to me in seconds.
Yeah.
But he's teaching them that not only how to use it, but the proper way to use it, but also teaching them that the teacher, if they turn something in that's been written by AI, the teacher's going to know it immediately because the AI is going to tell her.
There's all sorts of, you're right, there's all sorts of
that's correct.
detection tools, they call them. I saw some of them last week, and they're governance and orchestration tools.
Sure.
There's plenty of that. And there's a time and a place for it. You may have assignments that say, go use AI to figure out some problem.
That's it.
But now what you may have to be a teenager to do without AI, you could be a third grader and do. That's great. I mean, that's how wealth is created.
It is.
This is about saving time. It's not that humans can't do this; they can't do it.
It makes me very much more efficient
at that speed, and that's what it's all about. And I got exposed to that so much. I give you a use case example I never thought about. There was a company there called Legion Software that I spent a little time with at the AI conference. And they make AI tools that integrate into business workflow. Their major customer, their biggest customer, the U.S. Department of Defense. And they showed me a use case. I said, give me an example. A use case of using their tools for procurement at the Navy. And when they talked about what's required to buy something fairly simple in the Navy,
like a hammer,
it hurt my head. Right. Which ends up making dumb decisions.
Right.
But what they showed me, on two screens was use of their tool. When you start thinking about everything you've got to check off before you can just do a simple procurement, which is taking people's cycles and costing taxpayer money that shouldn't, and it reduced what are hours and hours down to seconds just to do a procurement for something simple. That's a simplistic example of the power, and there were more orchestration and governance and workflow tools. It hurt my head just seeing all of them, but that's exactly what's going to happen. My old industry, Deloitte and Touche, now the largest of the big four accounting firms, we had a keynote address from their director of AI, and he showed their use case of how they're using it in HR. Okay. And he said, we got 450,000 employees. We have hundreds of thousands of resumes. How in the world do you filter through hundreds of thousands of resumes? With their tools they've created, they do it. And then think about this, staffing projects around the world. Now, I remember the old days, you know how they did that? You kept notebooks of people with their skills inventory. Right. And you start making phone calls. Can this person do this? Are they available, man? You didn't have any electronic calendars to check.
Now you just ask AI.
Yeah, and now
give me 10 people.
Yeah, you scrub their skills inventory of all their people. And all the projects they've been on, and you got a project team built out in a matter of seconds. Imagine
literally
that.
Seconds.
And you know what it's like to build a project team in an IT project.
Yes, I'm an old wrench turner, so I mean.
So you understand that?
I understand that well. And it's always going to be wrench turners, even at
That's
data.
Exactly right.
Data centers are going to need wrench turners.
No doubt about it.
When
but if they can do their job more efficiently using these tools, so I believe that what we're going to see out of this AWS investment, I think we're going to see economic outgrowth in related industries that are going to want to congregate around this area, which means hopefully we'll keep people here. And I'll give you another example. I've got a call today. I'm connecting 3 different companies that are startups in Mississippi that have reached out to me because they kind of know what my involvement is. And I also have still contacts on Wall Street in the investment community. So I've got 3 different companies I'm working with. One today I'm super excited about. I have a conference call with my financial sponsor on Wall Street at 3 o'clock today. And this is a Mississippi-based company that's got 2 AI platforms. One's for law enforcement. You know how disjointed that is. You're in that industry, you know about that. Imagine if we can make them more efficient to deter crime, to prevent crime, and then to find the bad guys and get them off the streets.
It's funny that you mentioned that because we just replaced ours here in the city of Pearl 3 years ago. Okay. We just replaced what runs the police department. I'm not going to share what that company is, but I will tell you it has AI components that are built into it, and it does predictive policing.
Exactly right. Predictive analytics.
It's correct, and it has a full analytics section. That's and it'll tell you based on the history as you're putting calls in the system. It'll tell you like today at this time, if it's raining, this is where your wreck's going to be, and you need to position somebody there. And sure enough, we've been on it now long enough that as the predictive part starts to really gel together, we've been able to be more proactive in crime. Now, people are going to speed. People are still going to do the things they're going to do. But there's probably a unit close by or sitting there waiting on that to actually happen. I know, right? Smart. But that was a company that we went to years ago that saw the handwriting on the wall and knew that's where they needed to go. And so that was a $1.2 million project just for the little city of Pearl. Yeah. But your town, Ridgeland, just adopted the same one. So it's it's the right way to go because it makes the fire department, the police department more efficient. And that's exactly what it's doing. So you can imagine if we could achieve some structure in the data, what's called data ontology, which means more than just sort of this raw simplistic data, but all the properties and concepts about that. Right. Integrate all that, aggregate all that. I bet I talked to 5 companies last week. That's all they do is data aggregation and data integration. All this is just spawning whole new businesses. Right? That's a whole new concept. So here's what I'll say, and I mentioned this to Representative Zuber, who trailed me around. I'm in heaven, talking. Sure, I would be too. And I'm thinking, man, if I were only 20 years younger,
Well, just remember, Ray Kroc started McDonald's when he was 68.
He sure did. But what I observed, and I pointed out to Hank, is that of these 400 exhibitors, none are based in Mississippi. That's what we got to change.
That's what we got to change.
That's what we got to change, because all of these, you're right, not going to make it, but a bunch of them are, and they're going to be big companies with a lot of wealthy people that are going to spend.
Right.
We want to change that. I believe this AWS project is the first step in that. I think it will just attract that. But there are some budding entrepreneurs like the three I described that I'm working with right now that now at the phase where they need capital. So I'm able to just with my contacts, I'm not getting paid for any of this, by the way. I'm just doing this because I want to see them thrive.
You want to see them successful.
I want to see. So what will change, in my view, Mississippi, is we need corporate headquarters. And I've been on this bandwagon for 25 years because honestly, in my business, it's corporate headquarters. You know, that's where the decisions are made. Right. The branches aren't where the decisions are made. Those decisions about
at
IT,
the board level,
they're made at the board level. I need those to be here so that I can go pitch them. Like IT for Nissan. Now, I'm not talking in a negative way about Nissan. That's a great project that produced a lot of jobs and a lot of benefit for the state's economy. But all the IT comes out of Los Angeles.
Right. Not here.
That's where the decisions are made. We need corporate headquarters here. And we've had a net loss in many ways of corporate headquarters. And I don't blame any of those companies, but we need new corporate headquarters to form. I think this is our chance.
What happens to the city of Jackson?
The city of Jackson, I don't mind saying this. I have been an advocate for this change for quite some time, which is the procurement policies in the city of Jackson are problematic. And I've personally been discriminated against in the procurement process in the city of Jackson. And I've shared this with Mayor Horn as well. Till you fix the procurement policies, you got no chance of fixing Jackson. That's my opinion.
That's true. That's the truth right there.
I mean, anybody who's ever done business in Jackson knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Horn get it done? Not to put you on the spot.
I don't think he's willing to make that a priority today. I think there are a lot of other pressing matters that he can address, and hopefully with the council.
I think he's still drinking from a fire hose. I think he's drinking from about 4 fire hoses at one time.
I think his eyes are getting open and everything he's seeing, but I sure would like for them. In fact, I'd like to see the legislature enact law that prohibits this preferential treatment and procurement at all levels of government in the state. Now, from the state agency perspective, I've never seen that, honestly. I've never seen an agency adopt such policies. But there are certain municipalities, and Jackson, the biggest one in the state, has done that. And I think it harms. If you look at all the problems we've had in the city of Jackson, you drill down to it, almost always there's a procurement problem associated with that. And I believe that's what's going on. So I'm an outspoken champion of changing that. Let's level the playing
field. This project, like with AWS, with Amazon, would benefit Jackson tremendously.
It would, and I honestly think AWS would be willing to make an investment in Jackson if we can get the government and others involved out of the current mode. Right now, I think there's some hesitancy, but there's some pushback. But man, this is the only way you're going to fix Jackson is to address the poverty, right?
Sure.
And the poverty, I think, to a large extent, has been kept in place because of these bad procurement policies. I'll just be honest with you on that. Now, other people may not share Gerard's opinion on that, and that's perfectly fine.
No, it's just a new way of looking at it.
I don't think people thought about procurement.
I've heard you talk about it several times before, and I'm in a complete agreement with you. That's one of the, and it's not just Jackson. There's some other cities in the state of Mississippi.
Can the legislature do anything?
Well, Representative Shanks, I think, has brought a bill up a couple of times over the last 2 years. I think that he's worked on. That we haven't gotten where it needs to be. So hopefully we can.
The verbiage, the wording.
Yeah, you got to
support for it.
You have to build the votes up for it, and you got to make
That's exactly right. So, I have talked to the speaker about it, and I've talked to numerous legislators, and honestly, I get that look like I didn't even know that was going on.
And they just don't. I'm not sure they really follow what you're talking about sometimes on this issue.
That's true.
They just because it's not in their window,
Right.
So
It's real, and I personally experienced it as a vendor.
Right, as
to
a
the city of
vendor to the
Jackson. Now we
city,
did
right.
a lot of great deals
Sure.
and projects for the city,
Mhm.
but I've also had situations where, we should have won that deal and we didn't, and it wasn't a price function. We're actually lower for superior service, but we didn't meet all of those criteria, which should be taken off the table. Now, by the way, virtually every Democrat city in this country has the same, and I've
identical
dealt with it.
problem.
I've dealt with New
Sure.
Orleans, I've dealt with Memphis, I've dealt with Birmingham,
Mhm.
Houston, Atlanta. If you think about all those cities and how they're run,
Mhm.
same deal. And guess what? They're all a mess.
Yep,
as they're
they're one of them.
as well.
Well, DC's getting straightened out.
Yeah, well, we'll
But
see.
I think the eyes are being opened,
Yeah.
being opened about
I think so.
this. I don't want to call it corruption because they legally adopted those policies, but
Right.
it breeds corruption.
It does.
I think is what it does. So let's just get that out of there, and let's
Right.
get the best vendors for whatever the product. or
One of
service.
the things I always hear Democrats talk about the good old boy system. The good old boy system. Y'all got that good old boy system. Well, this is what we're talking about. That's what Jackson's got. The good old boy system.
It's
I
and it's
mean,
very
it's-
tightly knit,
it's-
and you can't break through it. And if you want to do business with the city of Jackson,
You
yes,
got to
gotta
get
be-
one of those people
Exactly
that's in
right.
that system to be your front man.
yeah.
And
I
that's-
personally dealt with it.
That's
So
wrong.
It's wrong,
Yes.
and hopefully when the mayor gets settled in, he'll start thinking about
Yeah.
this.
Well, if he when he finally gets a chance to breathe, when it's not something else falling in on him
Yeah.
tomorrow,
Yeah.
maybe he'll get to where he can
I'm hopeful.
think that through.
I am too.
I am too.
I'm
But he's had so much stuff thrown at him right up.
I'm hopeful.
It's kind of like a few years ago, in 2020, when Governor Reed's had tornadoes, COVID tornadoes.
Oh, I know.
Something
Yeah.
else,
Back to
tornadoes,
back to back
back
to
to back.
back.
It was just one thing after
Yeah,
another.
Right.
And
Man.
so, and I think that's where Mayor Horn's at right now. He's just,
I'm just thinking of all these projects that with AWS coming in. Obviously, that's going to affect the city, and it could impact it tremendously.
I think so as well.
But somebody's just got to pull their head out of their tail.
yeah, somebody there has got to get their hands on what we're talking about and get something done with it. And in Rankin County and Holmes County, all these counties around are going to benefit from this
There's no
in
doubt.
Madison County. And in addition to the fact, you got another one of these things being put in Meridian.
Right.
So, we have a tremendous opportunity here in Rankin County to
Yeah,
benefit from all
benefit
this.
from all
And
of that.
Just,
And Rankin County and Madison County are exploding.
yeah. I mean, both of those counties
But
are
look at our
exploding.
leadership.
So,
Yeah, it's different. It's
we
different.
we have to move forward.
The phone's ringing. There are other suitors in the industry
That wanna come here.
Yeah, there's one in particular. I don't want to mention it today,
Right.
but that I'm approaching to
Mhm.
talk about making an investment here, which would be transformational as well.
I know that education is going to play a big part, and our schools are doing a lot better.
Oh, there's
Mississippi
no
is
doubt.
moving up in terms of education. It's a lot of hard work. I think started back in 2008 when you go point your finger.
Yeah.
Education is turned around here, and it's going to be important that we continue to do that. Legislature continue to fund education and push kids to the right. Let them go to VOTEC if they want to go to VOTEC. Go be a plumber if you want to be a plumber. We should encourage that.
Totally agree.
We don't need to encourage kids that you got to go get a 4-year. You don't.
We want to keep those.
We
in
wanna
our-
keep- but the
that's-
ones
that-
that-
So I've stated this before. We're subsidizing the other states with talent.
100%.
We're paying all the money.
We are.
or the students are, to attend our fabulous universities
And
or
then they
community
leave.
colleges,
And then they leave.
and then they leave.
Right.
And so the other states are benefiting from our investment.
So we need to keep them here.
We need to keep them here. At a minimum, we need to keep them here.
We
So
do.
I think the door's open.
This has been a great conversation. We
I've
could
enjoyed
talk
it.
another hour, but I know you can't. But it's been it's been very educational, I think, for our viewers and our citizens. Will you come back?
Absolutely. I enjoyed it.
We'd love to have you
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, we'd
Appreciate
love
it.
to have you back and just do a check-in, kind of see where we are. Thank you very much.
Appreciate you having me.
Appreciate
Thanks,
you coming
Enjoyed
very
it.
much.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
man. Thanks, guys.
Representative Newman, for bringing him in.
Yes, sir.
We very much appreciate it.
I knew that Pearl would find him. Not just Pearl. This thing goes all over
This
the
goes
place.
all over the place.
But that our viewers would find this very interesting. That he has a lot to offer, and we'll see if he
Is he
don't pull a rabbit out of
Is
the
he
hat somewhere.
Mississippi's Elon?
He
He might be close.
The one thing I can tell you is that through the years I've met a lot of smart people.
Right.
and they all have similar qualities.
Mm-hmm.
And you put those kind of people all in that same running. So we're very proud to have him in Mississippi.
Yeah, we're very blessed, and thank you, Charlie. Thank you,
Yeah, man.
thank you coming in. All right,
Sure.
wonderful conversation. We keep going, but we just can't today. But anyway, stick around because when we come back, we're going to talk about what's going on this week in Pearl. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Mayor Wyndham, and I'm thrilled to show you the city creating its own future. Pearl is located in Rankin County, the fastest growing county in Mississippi, and there's no question why. Access to great schools, even better shopping, and unbridled beauty make Pearl a town that truly embodies its name. And with a truly exceptional team of first responders, public safety is another key component of our success. With fantastic housing opportunities from quaint suburban neighborhoods to gorgeous lakefront properties, there's a place for you here in Pearl. You can't beat the location. Right outside of Pearl is the crossroads of the South, where Interstate 20 meets Interstate 55. From here you can travel anywhere within the state or the country. Or you can choose to stay right here in Pearl or experience the small town atmosphere, community pride, and heart of the local residents.
Hi, folks. Welcome back into This Week in Pearl, where we just had a fantastic conversation with Mr. Gilbert about AI, AWS coming to the state of Mississippi, and what the future looks like and what it holds for the state of Mississippi and the surrounding area. We could have talked for hours on this subject and still not cover it all. So much to talk about and so much that's going on in the state. Thank him so much for coming in. You can listen to his program. He actually hosts a radio show on Super Talk 97.3 from 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. daily. So if you want to listen to more of him, you can catch up with him daily on 97.3 from 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. All right, so what's going on in this Pearl? Well, if you can believe it, Pearl Pirate football starts this week. August 22nd will be the Jamboree hosted by Pearl. Equipment's coming to town. Now, how does Jamboree work? Jamboree is where each team gets so many plays on each side of the ball. It's not really a game. It's exhibition. It's really kind of a dressed out scrimmage practice where you get to practice against someone else. But it's a good opportunity for you to be able to see kind of what the future looks like, what the season may hold for us as a Pearl Pirate. So do come out to that Ray Rogers Stadium this Friday, August the 22nd. Jamboree, I think that's at 6 o'clock. Then the following week, on the 29th, actually the season starts. Pearl Pirates will travel north, just a short drive up 55 to Madison Central to take on the Jaguars, and that should be a really good game. I expect a shootout probably nonetheless. Anyway, you can catch all of this action live right here on PMB Sports, where we've been bringing it to you starting our 17th year, bringing you live Pearl Pirate football. You can catch it right here on any platform, on any device, or you can watch it literally at citypearl.com, YouTube, Facebook, Amazon Fire Stick, everywhere. Any device, you can watch it on your phone, or you can watch it on your TV in your living room. So look forward to that starting this Friday, as well as the following week going to Madison Central. The other thing that we have going on is coming up in September, a little bit further away, but Main Street Pearl is hosting a paint and sip. Now, this is kind of a popular demand type thing. There's only like 40 chairs available, so you have to get registered fairly quick, which is why we're talking about it, because it's been very popular. People love doing this. You get to bring in the beverage of your choice, whichever one you want, and you paint with it's a lot of fun. It's called a paint and sip. It's held at the Pearl Senior Center. You must be 21 or older. Cost is $25 at the door. Hey, look, this has been a fantastic conversation. Loved every second of it. Again, I want to thank Mr. Gilbert for coming in. Thank you, Representative Newman, for bringing him. Hope you all learned something today. Anyway, y'all have a great week. Until next time, I'll see you later.